Okay, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Spreadsheet Skunkworks, Excel VBA, Spreadsheet Skunkworks, and this is the series where we try to learn as much as we can about Excel VBA, with the idea of possibly creating a chess computer. So it's what we call our infinity project. It's a project we're never going to really finish, but it's fun. It's playful and it maximizes learning opportunities. So welcome, and make sure you say hello in the chat. We've had 19 editions so far of the Spreadsheet Skunkworks, and we are on number 20 today. So I'm going to get in, do a bit of presentation first, going to try to cut the long-winded introductions, and then I'll let the chat, gather some steam, gather some momentum, and then I'll get into the chat and answer some of your questions. So let me just explain to you what I've been doing, because I have gone against the spirit of the series a little bit, because I've actually done some preparation. I've actually done some preparation for this one, and I was concerned that last time we didn't make much progress, and I think we needed, a spurt of activity from me to kind of kickstart things and to get things going. So what you'll notice is, or certainly committed fans of the series, it's good to see some familiar names in the chat, is we're back in the original file. I think from 16, 17, 18, 19, we had a different file. I started a new file so we could test out some ideas, and we spoke about how that's useful to test ideas away from all of the code and all of those distractions. So we had a new file, tested the ideas, did some conceptualization, and what I've done is I've tried to import those ideas, import at least some of those ideas. Gonna have to do a little bit of resizing here. Just bear with me a second, please. We're going to need a VBA editor. Let me just find it. Where's it gone then? Okay, here it is. Okay, just got to resize this. Let's see what we can do here. It's looking a little bit better. Okay, so we've got the VBA editor here. And we've got the original moves macro. I think it's called process moves or something like this. Here it is. Right. Yeah, we've got our original macro here. Well, it is the original macro in name, but you'll notice there's some new features in this macro. That's because I did a little bit of preparation this time. Specifically what I did, I took some of the concepts that we were practicing last time in our separate file, took them, and I've integrated them into this code, into our original code. So hopefully this is going to push us forward with this project. So you'll be able to see all of this is new code, and there's some other additional pieces here. Nothing too much down here, but what you can actually tell is by integrating this new mechanism, we've been able to simplify. We've been able to simplify things, which is a good outcome for us as programmers. So rather than just doing live coding in this live stream, I'm going to talk through how this routine is now working, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along a bit. Or you can set yourself a challenge if you take the file from the previous stream and then go back to, I think it's 16, Spreadsheet Skunkworks number 16. That's the most recent edition of the old file. So if you take the new file from 19, take some of the code, can you integrate that code into the old file, the most recent edition of the old file, if that makes sense? So you can try to do that during the stream. So we've got some new code in here. I'm going to talk you through this in a second, but there's more to this. On the engine sheet, we're going to see some new features here as well. Well, not really features, just some new data, not as exciting as features, just some new data here. If we go down, scroll down a bit here, a bit further into your screenshot, there we go. We can see we've got this table here. Where did this table come from? And again, people who were viewing last week will know that this table has come from our little conceptual file, our safe space, the other file we were using. I've taken this table over, popped it in the file, and I've just started to get the mechanism working. Certainly not working perfectly, but I'm going to demo it a little bit on this live stream. Maybe we'll try and make some progress. But the point is, by integrating these two files together, I think we've managed to make a big step forward. Hopefully that's going to kickstart the project again, get people excited about it. Because I know in the chat last week, some people were saying the project is feeling like it's dragging a bit. I think that's a fair point. So we've managed to push things forward. With that said, that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's have a look in the chat. Who is with us in the chat? Well, welcome everybody. I'm absolutely pumped that you turn out on a Tuesday night or a Tuesday afternoon or even a Wednesday morning if you're in Asia to spend a bit of time with me. And as always, ask me your Excel questions. I've got a couple of Excel questions for you as well. Try to get some interaction going in the chat. But who have we got with us today? So welcome Tony. I understand you're watching with your son Dom, Tony. So welcome Dom, and I hope that this video really gets you interested in VBA and computer coding more generally. Welcome. Robert is here. Robert, welcome from Philly. Weather's looking good there. Freddie is with us as well. Welcome, Freddie. Michelle is with us. Fantastic stuff. Good to see you, Michelle. Paul is with us. Paul is up in the north of England, although Barnsley, Paul, people tend to think it's really far north, but it's not too far north, is it, Paul? It's Junction. It's not too far up the M1. You know, it's not actually too far from me. And then we've got Freddie here, and Freddie's saying yes, more progress. Good. So yeah, I hope you can kind of it's not in the spirit of the series to kind of do work offline, but hopefully you could understand the rationale for me kind of pushing things forward there. Paul says junction 37 of the M1. Yes, so not too far up the M1. I was in Paul, I was in Scotland at the weekend, and that really is far up the M1. So Barnsley, not too far there. So I'll show you where I've got to here, and I'll show you the good and the bad, because I've spent about an hour trying to pull things together. So I've just got a rook in the middle of the board here. We can see working reasonably well for the rook. And we can see here the queen, and it's not working too well for the queen at the moment. So maybe we'll look at debugging that. Possibly we'll look at, if not solving that, at least debugging that problem with the queen. So at the moment, I've only programmed in the queen and the rook. And what you'll notice here, you'll be familiar with our little moves table that works like this. So the concept is that we're going to talk about move types now. So moving the piece up, moving the piece down, moving the piece left and right. And then we're going to build in more move types as we go along. And then what I've done is I've put these move types in the table at the top. So this table, you'll notice the column headers have changed. I think we used to have bishop move and knight move, maybe diagonal move or something. But these column headers here, they are the same as the column headers in the previous table. And then we've got a similar mechanism. So for each piece, we can switch the move type on or off. And that's what I did today as well, just quickly populated this table. So, excuse me, these are the main parts of the mechanism. Then let's go to the VBA editor. Okay, and so this may look confusing if you're new to the series. So if you're new to the series, I'd recommend going back through the videos, understanding how we built this all up. But I'll go through this whole routine briefly and tell you what's new and what's missing, what changes we've made here. So up to here, this is all unchanged. We've got this mechanism at the top here, which tells us what mode we're in. We've kind of got two modes. So if the pieces are already displaying on the board, if the moves are already displaying on the board, we're in one mode. We just want the VBA editor to clear the moves. If the moves are not displaying, we're in another mode. We want the VBA editor to actually put the moves on the board for us. So this gets us in the right mode. Then we have the variable declaration. So we do have some new variables here, but again, these variables will be familiar. If you were following along last week, these variables are from our concept file. So I've dropped those into this file. And then, yep, this is all as before, this code here. And then we have a new loop. a new loop here. So we've got move type counter equals 1 to 8. So we've got a new variable. This is just an integer variable. Now, why is it 1 to 8? Well, people who are really on the ball will have noticed that we have 8 move types. Just go along to the right here. We have 8 move types here, and in the future we're going to have more move types, of course, so we're just going to adjust this loop to account for all the future move types. And also in our table down here, we've got eight move types here. Let's bring that into your screenshot. Okay, so we're looping through these move types. And then, well, the rest should be familiar if you've been watching the most recent streams. Now, what does this line of code do? Maybe somebody in the chat can tell me. What do you think this line of code does? So we've got application.worksheet function. So we're taking a function, a formula that exists in the worksheet and calling it from VBA. In this case, VLOOKUP. So we're looking up the name of the piece in a table, in a particular column, and that's going to give us, and then we're looking for a particular value. So can somebody in the chat tell me what the function of this line of code is? What's the purpose of this line of code? Let's have a quick look at the chat. Michelle and Robert, excellent. You're both from Philadelphia, I think. And excellent. Yeah, so maybe you can have a little tiger sub-community, a little meetup over in Philadelphia one day. Fantastic stuff. So anybody in the chat, yeah, what does this line of code do? Okay, and then this is new, of course. So here we're assigning values to the variable, and these values are going to configure how we work through these possible moves, Remember, the defining feature of the new approach, the reason we're using the new approach, is that it counts away from the piece. It starts at the piece and then counts away from the piece. That allows us to deal with blocking pieces, because if we get to a piece, we can say, okay, exit the loop now. We don't want to go any further. Okay, so we're going to allocate values to these variables, and then hopefully the rest is reasonably familiar, although it never looks easy, does it, just looking at VBA code like this. But we've got 2 loops working here. So we've got 1 loop configured for the row with those 3 variables, 1 loop configured for the column with those 3 variables, and then we've got the pre-existing mechanism here. So this is from the previous macro, and this mechanism tells us if we're outside of the board area, because if this possible square is off the board, clearly we want to eliminate it. And then we've got lines of code here which are going to decide if we include or exclude the square. For example, if the square we're on is the square that the piece is on, that's not a possible move. And then this line of code here, so here we're starting, this range current square is an interesting idea, a really powerful one. This current square variable is, we're taking that from the piece. Remember, we're clicking on the piece or the shape. We're actually clicking on the shape to trigger the macro. This beautiful line of code, we're saying to Excel, of all the shapes in the sheet, give me the cell address of the one that we used to call this macro. Super cool line of code. Application.caller combined with this super cool property of the shape object. So Excel knows in relation to kind of the spreadsheet grid where the piece is positioned. So we can take that information, and we're using that for current square, and then current square, we're moving away from the current square by the number of rows, by the number of columns. And if there's nothing in the cell we get to, then we're saying to Excel, make sure you color this cell. So that means make sure you do this. Make sure you actually color those squares in there. That's pretty much as far as we've got. This is the code to actually do the formatting, and then we're getting out of the conditional statements here, getting out of the loops here, And then finally, we've got a line of code here to kind of control the mode that we're in. If we've got moves on the board already, we're in one mode. If we don't have moves on the board already, then we're in another mode. So that's your quick overview of the work I've done. And clearly it's far from perfect, but I feel like I've done a lot of the heavy lifting. I think that was the problem with the last stream. I was doing a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of cognitive load. And I've done that offline. And, rather than trying to do the heavy lifting online, I'm just going to talk you through it. Now, this file will be available for download, certainly in the next couple of days, because what happens after the stream, I put the file on the website with the video, with a little write-up, so you can catch up. So this will be available in the next couple of days. You'll be able to download this file, which will include any improvements we make in this stream. And I've had one or two people working on the file, sending their files to me. Fantastic stuff. Andrew is one of the people who does that. I'm not sure if Andrew is with us today in the stream. I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. Yeah, you're very welcome. And it's going to be great if you're learning to download the file, work out yourself what's going on, try to make some tweaks, understand what's going on, try to make some improvements to the file. You're welcome to send your file to me if you do that, although I won't have time to give super detailed, critique and review of your code. If you've got good ideas that are going to help, I'll certainly be interested in possibly integrating those. So that's where we've got to. Right, any questions in the chat? Yeah, Tony says, looks up what moves are possible. Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Tony. So we're talking about this line of code here, this line of code here, and this line of code, yeah. It's going to do a VLOOKUP. We can see because we've got a VLOOKUP in the line of code there. It's going to look at the piece name, and the piece name, how do we get piece name? Yeah, piece name again, we're using application.caller, getting the name of the shape. I can see this shape, for example, is called WROOK2. So we're taking that information, assigning it to a variable. So in this case, we'd go to the WROOK2 line, which is here. Let's go whole desktop. WROOK2 line, which is here. And then we're going to work across the table to the particular column. So we're going into our table, our mechanism that kind of switches the possible moves off and on. So for the rook, for example, all of the straight line moves are possible, up, down, left, right, but the diagonal moves are not possible. So we've got them set to no. Good. So good job there, Tony. Right. Any questions in the chat on all of this? Let me know if there's any particular questions in the chat. But I do want to tell you a little story, because I think it's important in these streams that we don't just talk code, that we talk about other stuff as well. But I've been having a very interesting dialogue, and this dialogue is in the comments to the Friday video release. So on Friday, we released a video which is called Excel VBA beginner techniques. Yeah, 7 essential Excel VBA beginner techniques. And we had a great dialogue on that with somebody who is saying, yep, I've started learning some code, absolutely loving the code, but he's getting a funny side effect just from knowing code. It's bringing some disadvantages with it as well as some advantages. I'd really like to know if you ever feel like this. And I remember when I was kind of starting my coding career, when I got the company started, me and my partner in the company at the time, we went and spoke to so many people. Our aim was just to speak to new people every day. And sometimes I had the problem of being pigeonholed. And have you ever felt this? Have you ever felt this as a coder? Have you ever felt this in another way in your professional life of being pigeonholed? So the problem is, if you know some computer code, then people just think you're a technical person. And I remember one particular meeting I had, I said, yeah, we do Excel VBA, it's really cool for getting more value out of Excel, improving efficiency, saving loads of time, etc. And this guy just said to me, oh, well, that means you're a techie. that means you're a techie, a technical person, which has a kind of positive connotation. You know, you have some technical knowledge, but also has a negative connotation, which is you're a technical specialist and possibly you don't understand kind of real world or more general business issues very well. So the chap I've been talking to in the YouTube comments is saying, yeah, I'm loving code, but I'm telling my colleagues about it and telling people in my organization about it. And they're actually saying to me that it might lower your chances of success in the organization, which sounds absolutely crazy that building your skill set, getting all these cool coding skills would have a negative effect on your career. But he's saying that you tend to be pigeonholed as a technical person, which means you're not considered for leadership positions, not the first person considered for senior management, the first person considered for promotion. So I'm just very interested, and let me know in the chat, have you felt any kind of negative consequences or negative perceptions from knowing some computer code? You know, because it certainly concerns me as the person who's in charge of the channel that people might be feeling negative effects, but at the same time, I do kind of understand where people are coming from. And I always say on the channel, in the videos, you know, you've got to understand real world context. You've got to understand the base of business strategy. You've got to be able to explain in lay terms what the code is doing. If you can do things like this, it's going to kind of humanize you as a coder and mean that you don't get pigeonholed as much. And there's so much interesting content here, so much interesting learning themes that we can tap into here, which is, and when people ask me, I'll shut up after this, but when people ask me, what can I do to get better? What can I do to get better at VBA? I say, don't worry about the VBA. The technical stuff is fine. If you can understand this, your technical ability is absolutely fine. So don't go further and further into the detail, rather zoom out and think, how can I better apply these skills? How can I better apply these skills? If you're interested in that, and you know, you really should be, if you're interested in pushing your career forward, then we're talking about project management. We're talking about understanding business strategy. Because if you can explain to a business person how better Excel can push their business forward, they're going to be interested in you, and you've translated a technical thing into a real world benefit. You know, so when people ask me what's the best thing I can do, I say, don't do more Excel, you know, work on your general understanding of business. And we're going to have a training course coming out hopefully before Christmas. It's going to be me and a colleague of mine who I've done teaching with in the past, who's a fantastic teacher. And we're going to be talking about exactly this. If you're a technical person, how do you zoom out, generalize rather than specialize your skill set? That's the way to maximize the impact of your skills. So this is what has been on my mind this week. Let's see if anybody in the chat is feeling this. Freddie says, is there any way to check how many lines of code are in the module? So Freddie, if you look at the screen now, and then I'm just going to click at the bottom. I've just gone to the module, bottom of the module here, clicked right at the bottom. Now, if you look in the top right corner of the VBA editor, you see it says LN252:B. So it tells you there how many lines you have in the module. I've only got one experience of this being a problem. The module was just too big and it was creating some strange behavior. But for most applications, you know, there's no real limit to how much code you can have in a module. Although if you have lots and lots and lots of code, then you should be thinking about the design of the code. Do you need all of that code? Do you have duplicated code that you could potentially get rid of? So I hope that helps you, Freddie. Robert says, absolutely. I do get marked as a tech person because I utilize fancy graphic related engineering software. In reality, I can barely use a smartphone. Yeah, very interesting, Robert. So yeah, it's funny how if you can use a piece of software, people just identify you with that software. I remember when I was doing my masters, and when I was doing my masters, my Excel was pretty weak, certainly in relation to other people on the masters. But that was like right at the beginning of my learning journey. But I got really good at a piece of software called Visio, which is in the Microsoft Office suite, and it does graphics, maybe similar to what you're talking about, Robert. You know, it does graphics and stuff, but I think I describe myself as a creative visual type person, and I just love this software. But I became known on the course as the person who does Visio, the Visio guy. So it's funny how you can become synonymous with a piece of software. And I think, you know, you've got to think, what implications is that happening? What implications does that have for my career about how I'm being perceived in the organization? So very interesting. Robert? Yep, Tony's underlining the point about how to find how many lines of code are in the VBA editor. Thank you for that, Tony. Yeah, pleasure, Freddie. Steve, welcome. Welcome, Steve. Steve's going to be with us pretty soon. Now, let me know in the chat. I've been trying to really promote our next live stream. And, well, it's more a major live stream event is what I'm calling it. It's what we're calling it, because it's going to be me and Steve. And we've got, I don't know if I should do the big reveal now, but we've got a powerful topic, and it really is connected to exactly what we were just talking about. Okay. So the technical skills are one thing, but if we're just learning technical stuff, we're learning loop within loop, conditional statement, we're learning application.worksheet function. If we're just learning the technical stuff, we're really missing out. And the things we're missing out on, we're going to cover in this live stream. And if you tune into the live stream, I guarantee you're going to get value out of it. I guarantee, if nothing else, it's going to change the way you're thinking about Excel, change the way you're thinking about your Excel skills. So welcome, Steve. So Steve says, what's easier, becoming more accessible and communicative as a techie, or acquiring codes as a non-specialist? Fantastic question, this. So what's the best way? I have an answer to this, absolutely. But who is in the better position, career-wise, or in terms of creating value for people and just having an impact in the world? Who's in the better position? Is it the computer coder? So say somebody who's done a computer science degree, who has subsequently worked hard to improve and develop better interpersonal skills. And I know I'm making some big generalizations here, which won't always apply, but they've worked really hard to be able to apply their computer coding. So we've got one person there. Then on the other side, we've got somebody who comes from a softer background. You might have an arts degree. Me and Steve both have arts degrees, by the way. Something crazy like that. You might have an arts degree. And then subsequently, you've got into code later in your career. So a couple of questions. Which one of those two do you think I fall into? And then it's just an interesting discussion. And I'm not saying one is better and one is worse, but thinking about that discussion and having the self-awareness, you know, what perspective am I coming from? That's going to give you insight about your strengths and weaknesses and where you can improve. So let me know in the chat, you know, which of those two categories do you fall into? Are you primarily a technical person who's working on things like this, applications for your technical skill? Or are you primarily someone from a softer background who has added technical skills later in their career? And are you getting any value out of that? So an excellent question there. And which side is working harder to reach the other? Yeah. Good point, Steve. I mean, this, to be honest, this is exactly the kind of discussion we're going to be tapping into on this live stream that's coming up very soon. And if you want the precise details, you've got to sign up to the mailing list. Let me know in the chat if you're on the mailing list. Sign up to the mailing list. So go to the website, Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions into Google, go to the website, go to the contact page, and sign up to the mailing list there. I think tomorrow I'm going to send details of when this live stream is happening. So, you know, we'll love to see you there. It is going to be on a weekend. I know that much. Good. Yeah. And Steve's saying word on the street. Everyone's talking about it. Obviously, our live stream. Word on the street is the live stream will focus on the underappreciated concept of meta skills. Absolutely. So, you know, when I'm working with people on code, you know, they're saying, teach me loop within a loop. teach me about module level variables, teach me about user forms. What's so difficult, about having a YouTube channel is what people want and what people need are two different things, if that doesn't sound too patronizing to say that. So people want the technical stuff. Oh yeah, I can't wait to show people this, blah, 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 blah. But what you need is what we call the meta skills. What me and Steve call the meta skills. And if you can focus on these meta skills, it is going to unleash your potential as a programmer. If you're a freelancer, you're going to have more projects. If you're working for internal customers, you're going to find they're getting more value out of your work. It's going to create all kinds of benefits. And we use the word meta skills to describe the skills we're talking about. Not giving too much away yet, but you're going to love this live stream we've got coming up. What else have we got? Yeah, Robert says, I'm pretty sure I'm not on the mailing list. So Robert, yeah, if you go to the website, sign up on the mailing list, the website contact page. And if you're not sure, just shoot me an email so that I've got your email address. I'll have a look on our database and I'll add you, with your permission, I will add you. Paul says, you're doing it in Berlin. This one, that's a good question, Paul. This one is, we're doing this one in Nottingham. So me and Steve, we do a bit of running. You might know, fans of the channel might know that. And we have a tradition now that I go to Berlin, which is where Steve lives, and we do the Berlin Half Marathon, which is in April. Steve comes over to Nottingham, which is where I live, and we do the Nottingham Half Marathon at the end of September. So this tradition has been going for a couple of years. We're going to try to keep it going. And then, when we're together, we do a live stream. We do a live stream. And then, of course, I'm trying to tempt Steve out of profitable full-time employment to come and help me permanently with Tiger. But yeah, can't afford his salary yet, but maybe one day we can tempt Steve over and we can be collaborating on this kind of thing full time. How do people get on the mailing list? Yeah, just to repeat, go to the website, Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions. Just put Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions into Google. Go to the website and then go to the contact page. I think it says contact us, and there's a link there to sign up to the mailing list. If you can't do it for whatever reason, send me an email, info@tigersolutions.co.uk, info@tigersolutions.co.uk, and just say, I would like you to add me to the mailing list. I'll make sure you're on there, and if not, I can kind of add you manually. Carl says, how much do you charge to participate in the live stream? Carl, the live stream is absolutely free. Absolutely free. As you know, all of our content at the moment on the channel is absolutely free. So the live stream will be absolutely free, and I would love it if you joined us. Carl, are you new to the live streams? Let me know. If so, welcome to the Chess Tuesday streaming squad, and it's good to have you here. And let me know where are you in the world, Carl? Where are you tuning in from? Steve says, lol, profitable. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Full-time employment. So, and the other thing I wanted to ask, and is, does anybody know about YouTube channel sponsorships? YouTube channel sponsorship. So it's quite a new thing on YouTube, and it's something that our channel has just become available to our channel, or I should say my channel, but for me it is about the community, so it's our channel. And how does it work, a channel sponsorship? Well, you pay a small amount of money, which we can decide, but I would say it would probably be £5, £10, $5 or $10. So hopefully reasonable, manageable amount of money for most people. What do you get for that? Well, the first thing you get is you're supporting the channel. And if I can monetize the content better, I'll happily do more content, but it doesn't earn a huge amount of money at the moment. So you're supporting the channel, buying into the community, and you'll also get some exclusive content, which will probably be an exclusive live stream based 100% on a viewer request from somebody who is sponsoring the channel. So this is a way to, I would love to do this full time, YouTube, and the long-term direction for the channel is to scale up the content, diversify the content, and offer an alternative to business school education. That's the long-term direction, but it's going to take some time to get there. And the only way to get there is to try to monetize the channel so that I can make a living out of it and I can do more and more videos. Now, one way of doing that is by doing these channel sponsorships. I was researching it today. It looks pretty good to me, and it's something I'd like to offer. But on the downside, it does change the dynamic of the relationship with the viewer, because I've never asked for a sale, which I think is a bit silly. I was talking to Steve about it today. I've never asked anybody to buy anything. And I would be asking you, to spend some money with me, and that changes the dynamic of the relationship, of course. So I'm a little bit reluctant for that reason, but I'll be very interested in the chat. Would you consider investing in that? Are you interested in the exclusive content, or maybe you'll just buy into the community? I don't know. Let me know. Carl is tuning in from the USA, Michigan in the USA. So welcome, Carl. Fantastic. And what kind of courses do you guys teach? Well, Carl, everything is on the YouTube channel at the moment. And at the moment, 95% of the videos are about Excel, specifically Excel VBA, which, as you probably know, if you're here, is the coding language, sits behind Excel. You can use it to save so much time, create super powerful analyses in Excel. So most of it is about Excel VBA, but we're trying to diversify the content to include meta skills, to include softer content. So for example, business strategy. If you're a programmer and you've got to pitch to senior management for a project that you want to get funding for, you've got to be able to explain to the senior management why they should care about that project. The only way to do that is to explain it in their terms. So you're going to have to talk about it strategically, you've got to fit it into the long-term direction of the company. That kind of content is what we're going to move towards. But the problem with that kind of content is, it just doesn't get many views. People aren't that interested, or they don't know what to search, or people don't know that it's what they need. As I said before, what people want and what people need are two different things. So that's the kind of thing we're teaching, Carl. And at the moment, it's all on YouTube for free, but there will be some more paid for options coming up. Right, let me know if you've got any final questions in the chat. Do you teach Visual Basic programming? Yes, Carl, that's exactly what we teach, Visual Basic programming. We call it Excel VBA, of course, but yeah, that's exactly what we teach. So what you should do, Carl, is go to the YouTube channel, go to the playlists. We have a playlist which is called Excel VBA for Beginners, and the videos are all sorted there. There's a nice series of 5-minute videos to begin with, 4 5-minute videos. That gets you started. Then we go deeper and deeper into more and more exciting stuff. So you're going to love that playlist, Excel VBA for Beginners. That's what I recommend if you're just getting started with us. But welcome, Carl. Great to have you here. Yeah, let me know if you've got any final questions, guys. We're going to wrap this up fairly soon. So Robert says, course 1, corporate buzzwords. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the stuff that I'd love to teach. And I think that would create so much value for people, a kind of business glossary, corporate buzzwords, we could say layman's terms business or something like that. I'm not sure. But for programmers, I think a lot of people who are doing programming, learning programming on the channel must be thinking, I wish I knew some more about business strategy, So it's certainly what I think, because context is everything. And if you don't understand the context, that's going to limit the impact of your programming. It works the other way too. If you can understand context well, you can maximize the impact of the programming. So yeah, being conversant in these business buzzwords, that's certainly something that we'd like to do. I think that'd be super useful. So Steve says, I'm obviously biased, but I'd say that Tiger's philosophy of contextualizing why Excel skills are important rather than teaching flashy stuff is worth supporting. Cheers, bro. Yeah, absolutely. We are speaking about it today. Me and Steve are always speaking about the channel, and our channel is not the most popular on YouTube. And to be honest with you, the views are kind of declining. You know, the popularity of the channel is probably in decline at the moment. So me and Steve were talking about it today, and we were having a look around some other channels, and the way we present the content is, yeah, very much to do with context, to do with meta skills, to do with what I think you really need to know. Whereas other channels, generally speaking, it is a generalization, there must be some exceptions, but other channels are kind of just showcasing the flashy stuff. You know, this is how you do a loop. But how do you apply it in real life? And then how do I learn other stuff too? You know, so yeah, I'm not complaining. You know, the market is king, and I accept what the verdict of the market. And if that means our views are in decline, our views are in decline. I'm not complaining about that. But there's always a challenge as a YouTuber to get people watching your stuff. And if your stuff doesn't appear particularly compelling or exciting, it's not going to get into the YouTube search. That just means people never see it. And you can see the evidence on our channel. You know, we've got quite a small number of videos that have loads of views, but then we've got lots and lots of videos that are good videos, and I'm biased too, like Steve, but better than the really popular ones that just don't have any views. That's because they haven't hit the right search terms. They're too long. You know, people have to engage with it at a deeper level. So yeah, certainly not complaining, but these are the kind of challenges that we're trying to deal with, and the strategy should be to put out the right mix of content, so you're bringing people in, but you're also teaching them the stuff that they need to know to succeed. Okay, if there's no more questions then, thank you so much for watching, and sorry we didn't do a lot of coding today, but this file will be available for download, and then next week I might do some work on it beforehand, or I'll try and do some work in the live stream. So anyway, the file will be available for download tomorrow or the next day. You can go and download the file and yeah, work on it yourself and really understand what's going on. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.